Hello my friends, my name is Catherine and today I am going to be showing you how to make a pasta dough because I am going to be doing some homemade pasta for a lasagna tomorrow. Now traditionally lasagna has spinach in the pasta dough, but I'm not doing that. I'm just doing a simple dough, the simplest dough I know in fact. And I wanted to show you how I'm going to be doing that. So the things that you will need, things that you have to have for a good pasta dough, even if you don't have anything else. Flour. Really any kind of flour will work. I use just a general all-purpose flour. It does great. You will need eggs. Doesn't matter what kind of eggs, preferably fresh eggs, but use what you have. And then you will need salt. Even if you don't have anything else, if you have flour, eggs, and salt, you can make pasta. I am also probably going to be using a little bit of vegetable oil. You can use olive oil if you want to. It's really nice with olive oil in it. I just don't happen to have any in the house at the moment. And I also want to flavor it with garlic and oregano. So I'm going to be including some garlic and oregano as well. The first thing that you're going to want to do is measure out how much flour you're going to use onto a flat surface. So I've got my cutting mat. Well, actually, this is a pastry cooking mat. I've got my pastry cooking mat all set up and ready to go. And I am going to be using 3 cups of flour, which is going to make a moderate sized batch of dough. It's not going to be small, but it's not going to be so huge it's unworkable either. So I'm going to measure out 3 cups of flour right onto my mat. And this recipe can be scaled. So it's pretty easy to do and it's pretty easy to remember. For each cup of flour that you use, add 1 egg. You'll add 1 egg for each cup of flour, and then for this recipe, because I'm using oil, I'm going to be adding oil to get it to the consistency that I want. It should be about the consistency of Play-Doh. So I've got my 3 cups of flour all stacked up, and I'm going to make a well in the center. Sort of. By the way, make sure you wash your hands, guys. My hands are clean. Make a well in the center, and then, because I use 3 cups of flour, I'm going to start off with 3 eggs. And I say start off because I may end up adding more. I usually, in fact, do end up adding more. But it depends on the size of your eggs and how fresh they are. Because as eggs age, they lose moisture. That's part of why they stop sinking and start floating after they've aged. So depending on how fresh your eggs are and depending on how big they are, you'll need a little bit more or less moisture to make this work. I have actually even, when I'm using really old and not large eggs, needed to use up to 5 eggs for 3 cups of flour. And I expect to need more moisture than these 3 eggs are going to include, but I'm starting off with 3 because I can always add more moisture and I can always add more flour too. But it's hard to add, it gets harder to add eggs after you've started. So you want to start off with at least the number that you anticipate needing. Then I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to break all of the yolks and then just slowly start beating the eggs right in this bowl. I don't want it to spill all over the place and make a huge mess, so I'm just going to beat them right in the well in the middle of the flour. And some of the flour is going to start to get incorporated into the eggs, and we want that to happen. That's a good thing. It'll start getting thicker and getting harder to mix with the fork, but it's still liquidy enough that I don't want to try kneading it with my hands yet. Have you ever tried to knead a liquid with your hands? It's not an easy thing, which is why we use the fork to begin with. But I don't know if you can see it. More flour is incorporating, and it's starting to draw away from the dry sides when we pull it up, which is excellent. It's coming along really nicely. Here we go. It might want a little more working, but I'm kind of trying to just bring it together. And I think that is pretty darn good. Might want a little bit more work. Let's just kind of roll it for a little bit and see if we can't work those seams smaller or into shape. There we are. Anyway, that is what a pasta dough looks like. Now I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap and stick it in my fridge and let it rest overnight. Like I said, letting it rest is really important. You want to let it rest for at least an hour. I'm going to let this rest overnight, which is my preference. And, oh yes, it will keep without being dried, just in the pasta, just in the dough phase itself, for up to a week in your refrigerator. So if you make it and then something comes up and you can't roll it out tomorrow, that's all right. You can put it off for the next night or the next night or the next night. Just don't leave it too much more than a week. I hope you guys enjoyed this pasta making video. It probably wasn't all that entertaining, really. And I will see you later, my friends. Oh, yes, and remember to subscribe. Bye!